ChatGPT5 is failing me as an analyst. Well, maybe it's not that dramatic, but it has been very annoying. I've been using ChatGPT almost every single day for nearly 2 years, so I've seen it at its best, and now I've seen it at its worst, from its leap forwards with GPT-4 to the creativity that we saw with GPT-4's. However, in my day job as a business analyst consultant at a Fortune 5 company, I build automations in Excel, SQL, Access, Python, and I troubleshoot tricky code, design complex reporting workflows, and dig into niche data problems on the side, like crypto market research or macroeconomic trend analysis. Also, I build AI agents, custom GPTs, and backend systems for my own personal life and business. And it means that I'm constantly pushing these models across technical, creative, and research-heavy workflows. So when I say GPT-5 has been letting me down lately, it's because I've seen it fail in places that I'm just not used to. What's even worse is that I'll paste those exact prompts with not even the same context into Google's Gemini and get exactly what I need on the first try. And before you think this is going to be switch to Gemini rant and that I'm just mad at GPT-5, this is more about me trying to figure out what is going on. Am I going crazy? Is this something legitimate? And why these differences matter for analysts like us. And when each tool still has a place inside your workflow in adapting to this evolving market. And before we dive in, if you're an aspiring analyst or just trying to break into data analytics, my channel is about helping you use AI to speed up the process in your learning, land your first data job, and stay ahead of the curve as the industry evolves. If that's the career you're aiming for, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the strategies and tools that can give you a competitive edge. So today we're going to go over my initial impressions of GPT-5 and how I've been using it, what I've been running into, and then going through different comparisons and use cases of what I'm seeing currently. Like when I'm building these models and trying to figure out which model to use on the back end for these different tools, you would think, okay, which is the cheapest? Then you would look at something like DeepSeek. Which one would have creative planning and has strategic planning better? And that was typically GPT-4, 4.0. And then if I wanted it to be more about coding, I would use Claude on the back end with these tools that I've been experimenting on previously. So we just have to evolve as AI is exponentially just getting better. So we have to roll with the punches to figure out what is the best use and which is the tool for the thing that we need at hand. So what we're going to be focusing on now is going to be ChatGPT versus Gemini, because those are the ones that I use the most. To understand this, we have to look at the architecture gap between them and why they feel different. GPT-5 uses something called an auto switcher. It quietly swaps between different submodels depending on your request. In theory, this sounds great, and this is probably attributing to their goals of cost efficiency. But in practice, it's like having a different assistant answer your emails differently each time. So you don't know who on the other end, who's going to be writing that email for you. The tone, the accuracy, the education, the experience, and the style can feel inconsistent. Gemini, on the other hand, is natively multimodal, which means that it can understand and work with different types of data and input. So it would be text, images, code, maybe in video in a single conversation. And because it's also built into the Google Workspace, Docs, Sheets, Gmail, and then also other things I haven't tested, diving deeper into Firebase, building things and applications on there, but I'm experimenting and I'm learning and going through that. But I would assume that it would be able to have APIs, basically connections into all of these other tools that are inside the Google ecosystem, which means it's going to be a lot more powerful for the automations that are built on there for the users that need that. So because it's deeply integrated into the Google ecosystem, for those of you and analysts who are inside here, it's going to be more valuable for you. So if your work involves jumping between formats and tools, the difference is going to be significantly noticeable, at least at this period of time. Now let's talk about context window and why size matters, and get your mind out of the gutter, not in that context. We're gonna talk about something that sounds technical, but is one of the most practical differences for analysts, which is going to be context window. Context window is the amount of information AI can keep in mind at once. That information is going to be measured in tokens, which is basically just chunks of data, which is roughly 4 characters to about 3/4 of a word, give or take, depending on the model. Think of it as a moving window on a long scroll of paper. If the window's big enough, you can see the entire project that you're working on. But if the window is small, older parts of the paper get pushed back. And once they're out of view, AI can't remember them anymore. So why does this matter? Because Gemini's free version already gives 1 million token window. And if you pay for it, it's a 2 million token window. That's enough to analyze an entire book, huge PDF data sets, multi-year financial reports without breaking them into single chunks. And when you look at GPT-5's context window, it's going to be 400,000 tokens. And when you compare that to the paid version of Gemini and even the free version of Gemini, that's 1 million for the free version and 2 million for the paid context window. That is crazy and that's wild. And you can see why GPT-5 is struggling. It may have better reasoning, but the reasoning is going to fail when it doesn't have enough information inside its context window. So that's one of the things that I've been having a bottleneck for larger scale analysis where I need it to have access to the full code base and for it to be able to troubleshoot everything that I need. And another thing that I've been noticing personally is with GPT-5, I've been noticing that it goes blind, and this is just what it feels like, to things that I've just told. And I have examples where I'll have a prompt and then I'll give the prompt and it will not reference the prompt that I give it to and it'll answer something from previous iterations before that. This happens when I've been switching from deep research mode, GPT-5 thinking, regular GPT, and I've read that this could be a context handling issue or memory issue. And I don't know if that's a bug. I don't know if this is something that they're working on or they're fixing. It's just something that annoys me when I'm trying to utilize different information and it just can't get it and access the information that I need. And so when that happens, I just offload all of it to Gemini currently. Working on my latest project, which was basically bringing all of the scripts that I had to come up with the best method and then make it into a concise execution document. ChatGPT was pulling my hair out. It would just forget context because the scripts were too long. I was able to break it up, use Gemini to help me compile and make and get the insights that I needed, and then manual work on top of that, but I was finally able to create a great document that I can give out. So if you want that document of how to become a data analyst faster, execution guide, I put something together that you'll want to grab. It's the free guide using Gemini, not ChatGPT this time, with strategies that help my coworkers, friends, and family land interviews and even data jobs. So now you can use them too. Inside, you're going to get a complete roadmap for breaking into data analytics, my AI prompts that I shared in all of those videos, which is a lot, including the one for instantly improving your resume, and templates, scripts, and other things, so you'll know exactly when to use it in a step-by-step process. Link is in the description below. Just tell me where to send it and I'll send it right to your inbox so you can start putting together that action plan today. Not a knock on ChatGPT. ChatGPT always had that smaller context window and it was fine. It was just a lot more frustrating than previously because it was just failing in ways, even when I broke up into smaller context windows, it was just failing in ways that I never expected previously when I was making other documents, making other scripts. And there's a benchmark paradox to all of this. On paper, GPT-5 destroys Gemini in technical benchmarks. 100% it's scored in advanced math tests, 74.9 in software engineering benchmark coding, and then 89.4% on deep reasoning. But the paradox and the funny thing is in real analyst work, at least in my limited experience so far, technically better doesn't always translate better for me. An example of this is I was working on a tricky automation issue. So I was troubleshooting a tool that uses complex SQL, is dynamic in nature, and is built, the front end is built in Access. And then I have complex dynamic VBA code that replaces and builds the query on the fly based on the files that the user loads, all of the options that they select as they go throughout the process. And as I was going through it, GPT-5 gave me an over-engineered solution, which was impressive. It was impressive code, impressive thinking and architecture and a way to approach it. but it was a lot more complex than I needed. On the other hand, Gemini gave me the quick fix instantly. And what I was thinking about it beforehand, but I wanted to see what they were going to give me as solutions. But Gemini didn't give me the warnings about the potential drawbacks like GPT-5 did. There's also a really cool function is when you do deep research on Gemini, they have, do you want an audio overview of this? I didn't find this out till yesterday. It'll give you a podcast style AI created overview of your deep research, summarizing your deep research with two people talking to each other, summarizing everything that you would need to know at a high level. It was awesome. And to be honest, it was better than a lot of podcasts out there that would be covering the same topic, which is kind of wild. Now, let's talk about something that may or may not apply to you. It's going to be a creative decline. This shifts something to that's not entire technical, but still has a big impact on analysts who create creative reports, presentation, or have stakeholder communications and need data storytelling. Because here's the thing, analysts aren't just data crunchers. You need to also be storytellers. You need to be able to take these complex insights and then make them into clear, engaging, persuasive content for your audience. I treated ChatGPT like a intelligent, skilled creative intern. So we'd go through multiple revisions, bouncing ideas back and forth till I landed on a script, which could be a YouTube script, could be a script for stakeholders where I'm going to make a presentation, could be a technical meeting where I'm meeting with users. And then let's just use YouTube as an example. I would fine tune the script, go through multiple iterations until I liked it. And at this point, GPT, I've been working with it for so long, it knows my tone, my pacing, even the creative flourishes and the nuances that I like to use. But with GPT-5, it feels like we went back. And the creative spark that it had previously, it feels muted. Some people on Reddit called it lobotomized, like it's missing a brain. But mine isn't as bad. It just feels like it's just not as creative as it used to be. And many users blame the auto switcher bug for preventing us from consistently hitting the best model, which results in replies that feel robotic, dry, and corporate. And then in my own scripts, I've noticed that recently, it's pretty obvious, just less personality, more generic phrasing. It just means I have to do additional revisions, be more tactful in my prompt engineering and what I put into my prompt. But it's kind of annoying that I have to take those extra steps when previously I could just give it a more simple prompt and it would give me exactly what I need. And in contrast, in Gemini, I would just give the same prompt and then it would give me not what I need because it's not as good as 4.0, but it would give me creative and give me more context for that I would need and more information to create from a base of that data. Basically, it gives me a better base to work from, to create revisions, to cut, and then to add in my own thoughts, my own stories, to dig into certain places deeper. It's just flat compared to 4.0. And for creative projects, now what I have to do is I hybridize it. I use both. I use Gemini for the raw research and the combination of also GPT deep research. So I can combine the two, take what I like from each, and then I iterate and then I give it to both, and then I see which one will give me the more creative output. Sometimes it's a mix of having to merge them together and then create a more thorough prompt to help me iterate through the revisions to get to a base that I like. And then I will edit it from there for my own personality, my own insights, and then finally get through the revisions to get to the final script. That said, for my day job, for just creating creative insights, data storytelling, GPT-5 is still fine for creating stakeholder decks, emails, creating data stories to build off of, and then anything else that you would need. I also had it work me through launching the new website, getadatajob.com, all of the things I had to build previously, and then all of the different little nuances and troubleshooting things that would come up. It was able to work me through that completely fine and smoothly. So it's fine. It's just annoying at this point. Next, let's talk about the core of an analyst role, which is going to be data analysis itself. If you're looking for highly specialized templates, models, and automations that we use internally at a Fortune 5 company, it's not going to be able to build you that, but you can build it piece by piece if you start in small context windows, if you have a good plan, which you can have ChatGPT5 compile for you. But I just never relied on it heavily on ChatGPT for advanced Excel because it can't handle the complexity along with the business domain knowledge. You can break it up into little pieces and help you in the little segments that you want, and then it's great at doing that. But you can't, for the life of you, like some people want it to, give it your entire project and have it just code and build your entire project. If you don't know what you're doing, you have to give it direction. That said, I do use Gemini, and where it shines for analysts is with unstructured data to try to make it more normalized so I can put it into the databases that I need. Say I'm scraping websites, I'm scraping comments, I'm scraping insights from, say, discords, from forums, from Reddit, and then I need to compile them all together in a structured format to load into a database. What I can do is have Gemini analyze it. It's not perfect because it's unstructured data, but it can still do a better job than GPT. So from here, if you're going to organize large data sets, which I did from like a previous video when I was organizing job data sets inside my local market, it was able to compile all of that information from the PDFs better than ChatGPT, but it makes sense because it has a larger context window. Finally, let's talk about something that might not be on your radar yet, but could be a game changer for your career and self-growth. Using AI as a performance mindset coach and also as a side hustle business coach or whatever goal coach you need it for. One of my most meaningful uses of ChatGPT was in this exact area. Last year, I hit a severe dopamine crash and burnout after months of high intensity work, side hustle trading, and then content creation, late night gaming to make me feel better and to escape. Little sleep to no sleep. I burned out harder than I ever had before. I never felt that low as I ever did in that period of moment. And GPT helped me piece together what happened, explain to me the psychology, spot repeating patterns in my work life cycle, and then build a plan to recover. And I did. That experience alone made the tool worth it for me. And now GPT-5, that tone is muted, but for me, it's fine. I don't care about the tone. I did it more for the analysis. I wanted the strategic advice, but I can understand why people say GPT-5 killed their friend, because there's literally people crying, like literally crying online because they feel like GPT-4 was more like a conversational companion, helping them through their personal challenges. And now losing that warmth feels like they lost something real, like they lost a friend. And for career changers that are using AI for interview prep, goal setting, or overcoming mental roadblocks, this change in tone might matter more for you than you initially expect. But the fix for this, which is annoying because you just have to do extra work, or until we see that they make more progress with GPT-5, is you just have to create a custom GPT and then give it specific instruction in the tone, the warmth, the quality of the coaching, the perspective, and the responses so that it feels like the coach that you want that can help you through everything that you need. So that's my recommendation of what you would do if you're experiencing that currently. Now, all of that said, this could be all completely user error. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep working with ChatGPT and to see if there's optimizations. Maybe there's ways for me that I just don't know based on the new change of ChatGPT that I can't pull out the best of it because I have to change the way that I prompt. And I'm going to look at the optimizations. And then once I get used to that, compare it to what I've been experiencing with Gemini and then also some of the other tools later. And if you want to take away just one thing from this, don't force AI to do everything. You want to experiment for your use cases and then evolve and see what happens as the company addresses all of the outrage and all of the issues that we're seeing and how they make it better and then adjust from there. That said, I did pay for Gemini because they gave me a free offer for the first months for free. So check that and then you can start testing them in parallel to see which one you like better. Now, I'd love to hear what you're experiencing and if you've been using any of the other AI models. Am I going crazy? Is GPT-5 that different? Maybe it's just user error, but love to hear your experience. Comment below. And until next time, query responsibly, and then watch this next video right here.